Secretly recorded from deep inside the bowels of a decommissioned missile silo, we bring you the man, one single man who wants to bring light to the darkness and dark to the lightness. Although he's not always right, he is always certain. So now, with security protocols in place, the protesters have been forced back behind the barricades and the blast doors are now sealed. Without further delay, let me introduce you to the host of Hutcast, Mr. Tim Hutner.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. You can now take your post.
On today's episode of Hutcast 2021 Father's Day, we're going to have a conversation about Pat and Mark McCloskey. I don't know if you guys remember those guys from the past who the demonstrators, or as I like to say, Associated Press, social justice demonstrators, evaded their territory and they defended themselves with their Second Amendment rights. And today we're also going to have FBI files and current updates. Stay tuned. Hutcast will be right back.
For home and workplace comfort, we here at Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning have over 30 years of residential and commercial experience in replacing, repairing, and doing general maintenance on your heating and cooling equipment. Call the experts at Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning. For all your indoor comfort needs, we are located in Coon Rapids and serve the entire Twin Cities area. Call one of our professional technicians today at 763-757-5040. That's Dependable Heating and Cooling. Again, 763-757-5040, Dependable Heating and Air.
Welcome back to Hutcast. On this glorious day of Father's Day 2021, our first conversation of today is going to be the McCloskeys from St. Louis. Previous shows, I've had a conversation about the McCloskeys' Second Amendment rights, the rioters, and I want to start out with a little thing from St. Louis Associated Press, and it says, a St. Louis couple who gained notoriety for pointing guns at social justice demonstrators pled guilty Thursday to misdemeanor charges. But the man left the courthouse definitely pleading, "I'll do it again," if faced with the same circumstances. Patricia McCloskey pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor harassed and was fined $2,000. Her husband, Mark McCloskey, pled guilty to the misdemeanor fourth-degree assault and was fined $750. They also agreed to give up their weapons they used during the confrontation. When several hundred demonstrators marched past their home in June of 2020, the couple waved weapons at them. They claimed the protesters were trespassing and they were in fear of their safety. The McCloskeys, both of them lawyers in their 60s, wore blue blazers and spoke to the judge calmly, answering questions from Judge David Mason. During Thursday's hearing, Mason asked Mark McCloskey if he acknowledged that his actions put people at risk of personal injury. He replied, "I sure did, Your Honor." Okay. This is again from Associated Press. Can be found anywhere out in the world. It is a St. Louis, it's in the St. Louis paper. And here we go with here's what I think about this whole deal. First of all, let's start with social justice demonstrators. Okay. When did trespassers become social justice demonstrators? They broke into a gated community, and Pat and Mark had weapons of their choice sitting inside their house. Now, these weapons, regardless of what they were not just pointed at them. They were defending themselves on this. So because someone had a Second Amendment right, the trespassers busted through a gated community to do what they choose to, and we don't know what they were up to, but they were there, and these guys got to plead guilty to it. First of all, you pointed a weapon at somebody, things became really real and really, really fast. And Mark had no other choice but to defend himself and his family in his own home. Pat and Mark says, "You are not coming up here." And it worked. You know, you could see on TV, again, this is almost a year ago. You could see on TV that these guys were like totally dumbfounded that how dare these white people aim a weapon at them. Well, Personally, I'm saying, okay, you did right. You couldn't have done anything more. But to have to go to court, because I'm sure that this judge is a Democrat. I'm sure that this prosecutor, matter of fact, let me correct that. I know the prosecutor's a Democrat. And they wanted social justice demonstrators to feel safe when they're protesting in front of your house. Is it protesting, or were they rioting? Because there's a fine line between protesting and rioting. You broke the law, be there. That turns off the demonstrator. That's instantly you're rioting. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I asked the wife. I said, hey, you know what? We need some new content. And the McCloskeys are not new content for me. We've had this show coverage before, but the hearing came due, and this is what they did. So Pat gets nicked $2,000. Mark gets nicked $750. It's a misdemeanor. I don't know whenever pointing a gun at somebody's a misdemeanor, but you know, it's a misdemeanor for them, so they get to keep their license as attorneys. Now they're in their 60s. You know, I don't know how many times they're going to be prosecuting or what they're going to do. Maybe they were till 70, so that's 10 years of extra licensing that they can stay on the board with. But what bothers me, and it should bother you, is that these people protected themselves, not killing anybody, not shooting anybody. Could have happened real quick. I mean, it all depends on them because, you know, it wasn't up to Pat and Mark. They didn't just come out one day and say, hey, I'm going to start pointing guns at people. They were threatened. Not a little bit. They were threatened a lot. Enough to where they pulled their guns and they says, if you trespass on me, if you try to kill and burn my house down, I will stop this at the cost of your life. Getting to the end of the statement here, Judge David Mason says, during Thursday's hearing, Mason asked McCloskey if he acknowledged that his actions put people at personal injury. He replied, I sure did, Your Honor. Good for him. Absolutely good for Mark. He is right. It's on them. And these people that come up there and did this, these social justice demonstrators, which I call protesters because, again, they were there illegally, were able to get as far as they did in the system to prosecute the two white people for having guns trained on someone else, for breaking the law. What is this world coming to? What I do understand is it says also here, related video. Mark McCloskey launches his run for U.S. Senate. Okay, everybody in St. Louis, hats off to this guy. We got some listeners down there. Be sure to vote for this dude. He couldn't have done any better. Nobody got hurt. And if somebody got hurt, it would have been on them. So my hat's off to the McCloskeys. I read this, and sometimes you got to shake your head and go, wow. So reading through some more show notes here. They also said that they were going to give up their weapons. What does that mean? They agreed to give their weapons that they used during the confrontation. Okay, so now does this include all weapons? Weapons from the future? Does this include weapons they had more in their closet? What does that mean? That's a pretty big Second Amendment squash right there. They have proved that they were going to give these up. They don't give. Why would they give them up now? So they could get a lesser sentence. So they could not get pinched for their fourth-degree assaults and their misdemeanors. Yeah, they're not saying too much. I tried digging into that. I couldn't find anything on that. So that's all the news is reported on that. McCloskey announced he may run for U.S. Senate. Okay, again, guys, let's do that. If he's there, by all means, push him in there so that stuff like this doesn't happen. I know there's a lot of people on both sides of this fence, but you know what? Hey, he needs to be there because he's gone through this. He's lived this. Let's see what else we got here. Because the charges Mr. and McCloskey do not face possible losing their law license. We've covered that on the courthouse steps. Okay, here's a pair of brass ones. On the courtroom steps after the hearing, Special Prosecutor Richard Callahan said misdemeanor plea was reasonable, noting the McCloskeys called the police, no shots were fired, and no one was hurt. But I think their conduct was a little unreasonable in the end. Special Prosecutor Richard Callahan says that's a little unreasonable? Says what? Says who? I don't know about you, but if there's a mob outside my door, there's going to be several weapons trained on several people, regardless if they feel safe or not. You want to protest? Go protest someplace else. or protest in heaven or hell or wherever you're going to be going to if you protest to burn my house down. Okay, says, I don't think the people should in this case view some type of betrayal or assault on the Second Amendment. I mean, bull poo-poo. This is not a betrayal on the Second Amendment? How can it not be? They have to give their guns up. They've agreed to give their weapons up. That's tyranny in a root cause. That's tyranny. Taking your guns to disarm you. The Second Amendment does not permit unreasonable conduct. Okay. So if you do go to the Associated Press and get this, does freedom of speech permit unreasonable conduct where you can attack and threaten? Hold on here now. So here we are, that the Second Amendment has a certain amount of rights, but the First Amendment does not, because the First Amendment between that and burn your house down are pretty close to you're going to end up dying. Okay, let's see here. The June 2020 protests coming after George Floyd's death. Okay, yeah, we're putting up statues all over the world for this guy. All over the country. Let me rephrase that. We're martyring a guy who is not a very reasonable person, according to his police records here and in Texas. He moved from Texas to here for a different start, and the same start here was the same start there. I don't know about you, but that don't sound very reasonable human being to me. He had no regard for anybody beside himself. So now we're putting up statues. We're martyrizing this guy. And people are okay with that. True, he was killed. That's something that you can't undo. And the guy who killed him is being prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I do see that some in the news here that Derek Chauvin is filing for a mistrial because he couldn't get a fair trial. I happen to agree with that. This is such a highly publicized case that how could you get a fair trial? So it needs to be, where do you put this venue? In what city would take that? Heck, we couldn't keep our own city from burning down, let alone send it to someplace else. What are you going to do? Middle of Casper, Wyoming, and you're going to put this trial out there where nobody's heard of nobody like that? I don't think so. They don't have the manpower, and the feds aren't going to do it. There's no way the feds could even protect anybody because these riders come in by the busloads. Okay, let's see here. McCloskey's merged with an AR-15 style semi-automatic pistol. Well, you know what? Either it's revolver or it's semi-automatic. There's just no in between. And semi-automatic, they want to throw that at you to, ooh, look, scary gun. It was a pea shooter. Yes, it will ring your bell if you get hit, but it's all semi-automatic. So I don't know about that. This is like a really poorly written Associated Press. Cell phone video captures the confrontation. No shots were fired. No one was hurt. McCloskey's were indicted by a grand jury on felony charges. So we go from a felony down to a misdemeanor and a fourth-degree assault. Well, the fourth-degree assault's got some teeth in it. But what's the misdemeanor going to do? You can do that, spit on the sidewalk. So they knew they were in the wrong. At that point, they went, well, maybe we should just kind of smooth this over because there's a lot of 2A guys out there that wouldn't stand for this. The Boogaloo Boys, the One Percenters, all the people in the world are going to say, hold on, you didn't like the Capitol riots? And we call them riots. They call them insurrections. You don't like that? Don't stir us up. Let's see here. An investigation by St. Louis Kim Gardner's office led the initial indictments. Well, first of all, Kim is a flaming Democrat socialist. She will do anything to beat up on the Republican Party, and she's also outright said that in public. Harsh backlash from several Republican leaders. Then President Donald Trump spoke out in defense of the couple whose newfounded celebrity earned them an appearance via the Video Republican National. So they were on the RNC, the McCloskeys, and the Republican governor, Mike Parson, says that if the McCloskeys are convicted, he will pardon them. Sir, my hat is off to you. Completely off to you. Thank you. Let's see. A spokeswoman for Parson did not immediately respond to the request for comment after the hearing. Callahan's longtime judge and former U.S. attorney was appointed special prosecutor after a judge in December ruled that Gardner created an appearance of improperly by mentioning McCloskey's case in funding emails before the August Democratic Party. Right before the primary, Gardner went to win this re-election. So, tough call. What do you guys think? I mean, engage yourself. There's no common sense in this whole McCloskey's thing. I was on their side the whole time. I'm looking at their picture here. We all have that picture. It's a very Googleable, proper term. That Mark and Pat were just sitting there with their weapons, and they were standing on their front yard. And, looks of the place, very well-to-do situation. They're not, certainly poor, but they were warning you. They were warning the people in the street, if you come this far, you will not have a good spot to be in. So again, my hat's off to you guys. Hats off to the governor. You pardon away. And we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
I'd like to talk to you today about security, home security, business security. We here at ProTech Security care about your safety. We've been keeping honest people honest, we like to say, and give dishonest people something to think about for over 20 years. Not only provide high-tech security systems for your home and business, we also provide basic network and router management LAN and Wi-Fi for our residential customers. Support audio and video monitoring systems, card access, security systems, cellular phone amplifiers, home entertainment systems, and much, much more. We have experienced technicians that will design a system that will work for you. We are located in Osseo, Minnesota, and are waiting to design a system to meet all your specifications. That's right, ProTech Security. Give us a call, 763-493-2020. We are pro at keeping honest people honest. ProTech Security, 763-493-2020. ProTech Security Systems.
And we're back with Hutcast. At this part of the show, we're going to have a discussion about United States Department of Defense. Now, as you know, I'm an ATF FFL, and the Bureau gives us certain accesses to things that most people don't have, but it's common sense and it's common information. So you can get to it. It just ain't as easy as us guys when we can get to it. So right now I'm going to open up on a case about the Memphis in the News, Nigerian citizen, 11th person sentenced in international fraud scheme. So the headline reads, again, this is in the ATF FBI section of my FFL stuff, and it says Bernard Okia of Lagos, Nigeria, has been sentenced to over 75 years months in federal prison for his role in an international fraud conspiracy. Now, here's what I got to say about that. You see all these emails, you get all these informations, everybody's sending you crap. And you always think, hey, that king from Nairobi who has $50 million waiting for you, but send him $49.95 so you can get it. These are these guys. Well, they caught him in Tennessee, and this guy's 42 years old. He should know better. His co-conspirators are also Maxwell Peer, Babatunu Martis. They're all arrested, and they're awaiting extradition, including Dennis Mahai, Samuel Harde Whipham, his brother, and Victor Okora, I don't even know how to pronounce this one, Odi, has been arrested in Nigeria and is waiting extradition to come here. In the June 11th, 2021, District Court Judge Cheryl H. Littman sentenced Okara to 75 months in this federal prison. So when you guys, you see all this and you report it, and the reports from when 2000, when the big scammers were out there, and it was 1 in a million, now it's 1 in 6 million, and they're just constantly being hammered. The FBI is actually doing something on this. I didn't know they could extradite. Being from Africa, I'm just floored. Like, okay, I'm reading through this, going 75 months. That's a big term. That's just for wire fraud and doing all these things that these guys are doing. Let's see here. This also goes on to say Ramos Alanos of California and Mexico, 31 months. Rashad Abdul of New York and Guyana for 12 months. So they got this ring. They pinched a lot of dudes, which I'm sure there's a lot of vulnerable adults that are pushed into this. You get the ones. We had a family incidents where they called and it says, "Grandpa, I'm in jail." "Who is this?" "This is me." And then all of a sudden the vulnerable adult says, oh, is this Billy or Bobby or Julie or whatever? Yes, it's Johnny, whatever the name is. And now they have something to go on. So this is one of those things where they caught these pukes. And I thought, okay, this is time for a show on this, and let's have a little segment. Just when you think that if the feds aren't doing nothing, you get a case like this, and you read this and go and score one for the good guys. And so all these people out there who are getting scammed, who did get pinched, who give up your information, don't ever, ever give your information up. If you need something out there, you call them. Don't let them call you. You get a hold of the people you need to get a hold of, and then do the transaction safely. If you're concerned about it, find someone who is a little more tech savvy so you can jump into this and say, well, we ain't doing this twice, and we're not going to waste my money. So for all you older people that are listening, don't get pinched. Don't get in that position. Just ask someone else. Another cue that I look for when I see these, they have what is known as a data logger. So they're monitoring every click on your keyboard. When you open up an email, if you're not sure, don't open it, first of all. Just stay away from it. But if you're kind of sure and you think it's something you might have done, and these guys are tricky, I mean, they'll get me to open once in a while, just put in some fake password and username. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's even the right email. Just put in some arbitrary nothingness and then hit the enter button. And if it brings you to that page, or a page that says, oh, thank you, welcome, we're all good, then you know that it's a scam. So for God's sakes, people, don't fall into that. But again, during this whole Nigerian citizens thing, they pinched them, they got them. International fraud scheme. This was dated on June 16th, 2021, so I got it for immediate release from the U.S. District Attorney's Office of Western District of Tennessee. Very, very interesting conversation. They send me these a lot, and I do believe it's podcast worthy or hutcast worthy to just have some of these out there and say, hey, check this out. A couple more here that we've got is the FBI alert for Albuquerque Police Department seeks information on ATM theft. Okay, that's kind of, what isn't getting stolen these days? The ATF Albuquerque Police Department is seeking public assistance for finding the person responsible for theft of an automated teller machine. That's on the 16th. Here's another one. Co-conspirator sentenced on charge of Social Security fraud. Oh, there's a big one. Now it's for sure federal. Okay, we got the Nigerian guy. Newington man sentenced to more than 6 years in federal prison for fentanyl and firearm offenses. 78 months this guy got. Joseph Diaz, you're the winner of Newington. That's your guy. Let's see, fentanyl. That was on June 16th as well. Oh, here's one for you. Russian national convicted of charges relating to Kijos Bennett. And it says here, Oleg Kroshin, the Russian national, has been convicted for his role in operating a cryptic service using Conceal Kilos malware from antivirus. Okay, so let me pop in this article here. Okay, so this is a hacker. This is a cyber case. Another one like the South Africa or the African one. You ever open up an email all of a sudden? Hey, if you want this, you're bit encrypted, and you got to pony up and all this grab. The wife had one, and I'll tell you what, it was a pain in the butt to clear. So a federal jury convicted Hartford, a Russian national, yesterday for his role in operating a cryptic service to use Conceal Kijos. Oh yeah, they do find these guys. They do get them. Formerly 41 of Estonia. My good friend, we do this for you. You pay us in cryptic. Okay. 15 years. Oh, nice. Again, on the District of Connecticut. And this is also on the United States Department of Justice website. Check it out. What else can I answer for you guys? It's been been a crazy one. Estonia admits operating a cryptic service. Okay, so this is where he admits it. Leader of an Oxy bandit, I guess, in Los Angeles, the LA News, on June 16th, 2021. Leader of the Oxy bandit crew found guilty of federal charges related to armed robbery of 15 Southern California pharmacies. Tyrone Lewis of Linwood has been found guilty of federal robbery charges for organization and leading a crew committed to 15 armed robberies. Let's see how many years this guy got. Oh, there it is. No worries. He voted Democrat. So there we have it. He's off scot-free. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what his unit is. 19 of 15 armed robberies. Oh, that's a big article. You might want to dig into that one a little bit. The Oxy Bandits. I didn't know they had like a term for these. I thought it was just like a 70s crime show thing where they give people names and stuff like that. But the Oxy Bandits. Huh. Los Angeles. Who'd have figured that? Tyrone Lewis, 26, a.k.a. Booby. That was his name. Tyrone Lewis, Booby, was found guilty of all 8 charges he faced after 2-day bench trial in April. Lewis has been in federal prison since July of 19. Well, gotta suck for him, huh? Good for the feds. It's about time they start catching some of these pukes. Defendants from New Orleans and Jefferson Parish leads guilty to conspiracy to stage automobile accidents in order to defraud insurance companies and trucking companies. Nice. Okay. Short show tonight. My first segment was pretty heavy. And for a Father's Day, it was a nice night out here in the Midwest. And a little bit of rain. We loved it. It is now like 10 minutes into my second segment. We're going to pull the pin on this. Don't forget, in our current and upcoming shows, we're going to have a defense specialist coming in. And our schedules are not lining up, so it probably won't be until after July. Maybe we'll get one episode in July. We'll see if we can turn this into a mini-series, maybe 6, 8, 10 of them. This guy's got a lot of intel. And I hope you listen to that show, because it's just like, talking to this guy's like, okay, he knows what's going on, and he's changed. He's taught SAS, he's taught U.S. forces, he's taught police. I think he's someone to listen to. Big 2A supporter, one of my guys. But if I can get this calendar to line up with his, we're going to start making this series. So again, for Hutcast, we are now going to call it a day. You have a wonderful and a happy rest of your Father's Day. Be well all, and thanks again.
And that's a wrap for Hutcast. Hutcast is, again, a pragmatic approach to seeing things how some people see them. If you like our show, give us a thumbs up on the Facebook site. Again, for Hutcast, thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.